And we will go ahead and start this session. So just as a matter, this is the Newberry Council on Aging Board of Directors open meeting for August 24th, 2020. As a reminder, this meeting is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order from March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a public, accessible, physical location. All right, I will do a roll call. And if you could just let us know that you're here. Jerry Dorr.
Present.
Joyce Macheros.
Here.
Evelyn Noyes.
Here.
Sandy Small.
Here.
And Maggie Malley.
Yes, I'm here.
And this is Chaz Rudich, and I'm here as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we will go ahead and get started. First item on the agenda is the review and approval of the July meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review them, or do you need a little bit more time?
I'm fine.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as presented.
And I second it. So as I call out your name, if you could say if you accept them or not. Jerry Dorr.
Accept.
Joyce Macheros.
Accept.
Evelyn Noyes.
Accept.
Sandy Small.
Accept.
Chaz Rudich, I accept. So our next item is the review of the Council on Aging expenses since the last meeting.
Excuse me, I have not pulled up the wages. The wages have not changed since our meeting on the 20th of July. The expenditures since that meeting were $45.91 for drinking water, for Ready Refresh, and an oil change and check of fluids on the COA van from Walls Ford for $41.62 for a grand total of $87.53.
Thank you, Maggie. And does anybody have any questions about the expenses? Okay, so our next item is plan for reopening. Maggie?
Plan for reopening. I have got a group together of the stakeholders who should be part of a tour of the senior center with the board of directors members. I got that from the town administrator, people she thought should be part of that, including the select board members. So I'll be sending that out later this afternoon. I was going to offer a couple of different dates. I don't know that everyone, obviously, to get all these people together may be challenging. And I don't know that there's, if we're trying to be socially distanced, we may not want everyone at the same time anyway. Excuse me. So I'll choose several dates. One date before Labor Day, and then a couple of dates after that. Some morning, some afternoon, to see if we can at least get everyone to come through and take a look, and see what the situation is, and comments and suggestions for moving forward. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The COA van
I have a
is,
question.
oh, sure. Go ahead.
How many people do you think would be appropriate to be in any one group?
In any one group. I'm so sorry. In the center? To be
Yeah,
in the
that
actual
will come through.
space? Golly. Maybe 5 or 6 people in addition to the
Okay.
2 or 3 who may already be here. You know, I'd have to go back and look at my list of people who were
That's a
invited.
lot of people.
It is
You're
a lot of people.
talking 7 or 8 people in a small space there.
It is awfully small, which is why I'm thinking it would be not inappropriate to have, you know, maybe 3 or 4 people come at once, while all of these stakeholders could come at some point on
So
one of
if you
these days.
cap it at 5 and you can. Okay,
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. To I'll put that in there. You know, if we could keep it to 4 or 5 people over these 4 or even 5 dates, I
Okay.
could add another date. At least everyone can look at it and give their suggestions. You know, get a decent tour. Either, you know, I'll plan to be here for those walkthroughs. And anybody else who would like to, you know, accompany on the walkthrough for consistency. At least we can get these stakeholders, as I said, their opinions. I think, you know, several of these folks probably have not been here before and have not seen the space. So that will be new for them.
Are we,
Any other
are we
comments?
making these decisions based on what the governor has allowed or what our own personal preferences are?
I think I'm just going by, you know, what we used to have as a maximum in the center. We could support roughly 18 people or so when we had a gathering without moving furniture. I think a fraction of that is what I'm working off of, with guidance from the governor's office. The towns, suggesting looking at guidance that, different departments like the library has guidance from the state. The Council on Aging has guidance from the state and from Massachusetts Councils on Aging. So I'll look more closely at those numbers. We have to have I'm putting in an order for more hand sanitizers this week, a unit by the door, that type of thing. Masks. Any other comments about that, about having these folks come through the board, select board people, building commissioner, board of health director, who else, building planner, town planner, in addition to the fire chief, the police chief, town administrator. I may be missing somebody off that list. Anybody have any comments about that? Other suggestions?
I have a question. Me too, when you're ready. Go ahead, Sandy.
My question is, the tour itself, is that due to our request for a larger place or because we have constrictions due to the pandemic?
I think that it's twofold now. I think the idea of having stakeholders come and view the space initially really was driven by the subcommittee, the expansions committee's findings and review, but now COVID-19, and I don't know that we anticipated necessarily these changes back in March and April, but I think it is now a twofold
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
purpose.
I was going to ask the DP VFW ever came by to have any suggestions where they did the town hall.
They had, they asked me what I wanted them to do, which
Okay.
kind of led to, okay, we need to have other people look at this, like the building commissioner.
So you're
And
getting ready to reopen is what this is all about, or the possibility of reopening if we even can.
if we even can. As of September 8th, you're probably all aware, all town departments will be open by appointment only.
Yeah.
I think that the only thing that would be necessary to meet in the center here perhaps would be an outreach visit. If someone wanted to come in to discuss something specific to, under the category of outreach with Janet or even with me. The SHINE program, which is, one of Newbury's regular and fairly consistently attended program for Medicare counseling, will be remote through at least the end of this calendar year. So there's no need for an appointment for that. That's all by phone at the moment.
All right.
So I think
I'm trying to getting my head exactly what the walk through is for, but we'll take it because I'd love everybody to look at it.
yeah, as I said, I think it's twofold. Looking at
Yeah.
the
We do have.
inadequate space for gatherings. Let's
Right.
Pre-pandemic gatherings or post-pandemic gatherings, and also having to consider the safety guidelines, even for staff people. Don't know what that might look like. It's interesting. I've gone through and Chaz took a look at the volumes of history of the Council on Aging that Town Clerk Leslie Haley found in her archives at town offices.
What was she specifically looking for that? What was she doing in the archives?
She was looking for, this was born of the COA bylaws and looking at the number of board members that are suggested, the maximum number in the bylaws. So this was, kind of serendipitously found, these two volumes. Yeah. And there's a lot of documentation in these, as I said, it's a history of the Council on Aging. And there's a lot of documentation about the fact that the space here at 63 Hanover was wonderfully welcomed when the Council on Aging moved from the desk at the back of Town Hall on High Road. But within, a fairly short number of years, it became clear that there needed to be new space.
I can understand that by that. The letter you gave us a copy on March 15th. They were thinking back then of something that I had never imagined that we could even have, and it's great.
Right.
So,
Right.
Okay, I'm done with that. I would like to come by it sometime once you get set that you can have other people in and look through those archives.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, it's very complete. It
must have been Alex.
It's really good information to have, and we'll have to have a nice space here where everyone knows that it lives.
Okay.
So anybody can access it when they want to.
Do you know who the directors were that kept those records? Was it just
I do believe that Martha Webb, wonderful
Okay.
Martha, who's got such terrific attention to detail,
right.
as an historian of this department. I think that Martha did most, if not all of this archiving. So
wow, that's wonderful.
Kudos to Martha. Yeah, it's
kudos.
incredible
Thank you.
to have. A lot of newspaper clippings, a lot of nicely handwritten description of activities and highlights. So it's really invaluable. It's wonderful.
Nice to know.
with regard to, moving forward in some light to some kind of preparation for people to be in the building at some point, and the van. The van will go either this week or next week to be measured for at least one extra plexiglass panel.
Okay.
There are a couple of modifications that have been suggested. Something to indicate which seats are available, for example. The 12-passenger van can have 4 passengers at one time.
Right.
So that type of thing, something to indicate the seats.
Well,
Hand sanitizing stations on the
Yeah.
the front entry door wall, and also in the back, where groceries are often taken on and off, where the library delivery program, the bags are in the back, and the library employees in the back. So looking at 2 stations for that. A reminder to wear a mask over your nose and mouth, that type of thing. So those modifications.
well,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
oh, that's all right. On another subject, I think we've talked about the van before and what was needed or what is coming, and that's great. On members, I understand you said Leslie was looking through the records and she found the other information. What about members? Are we ready to let these 2 new people get voted on by us at some point when we put it on the agenda, or where do we?
Leslie got back to me, and the next step, I'm trying to remember now, I think we have to go to the Board of Selectmen. I'll send that to you after this meeting.
That would be wonderful.
Got notice from her about the next step. And that with the Board of Selectmen's administrative assistant, Julie O'Brien.
Yeah.
So I will get back to you all on that, on what we, as a board, what the board needs to do next in order to.
The board does need these members desperately. So I'm hoping that we can allow to have, at least we have 5 now. And that's not enough with the ages we're reaching and taking a vacation in the winter. So it would be nice to have some more members, so we had more people at the table when we get together coming down the road for December, January, February, and March, and maybe April. So I think, so that's one of my big concerns, and I know it is also of Evelyn. It's hard to find people that volunteer. Evelyn, did you want to add to that at all?
No, I just don't like to leave them hanging. Not giving them an answer. They volunteered, and I just can't tell them anything.
I'll as I said, I'll check the email that I just received just to see what the next step is in bringing on new members.
Okay, is this all something new? We never did this in all the years, not all the years, I'm not ancient as far as membership, but I've never remembered such an ordeal. We were so glad to have members. Oh, sure, come. And then we submit it to the Board of Selectmen, they would approve it. So it's beyond me what happened.
I think that this issue, how do I articulate this, came from, I think, a set of bylaws that was updated that hadn't made it to the Board of ultimately, the town clerk and the Board of Selectmen.
Is that the one?
Been posted when it was fine-tuned in, and Chaz, you'll correct me or help me with the year, where we were having issues with a quorum for voting purposes. So the language was changed slightly and voted on by the board.
Didn't we just do that in January and February, or?
Yeah. Yes, it was actually done. We made two changes, one in November and then one towards December of 2019, or I believe it was October and November. And it was finally approved by the board in January of 2020. However, that was the first update since 2002. And I believe somewhere along the way, one of the other amendments prior to us never made its way through to the Board of Select. Going through the first volume of the archive, it looks like the original numbers were consistent with what we originally had and what we amended. So I think that there was just that transition from 1982 to 2002 that never made its way through to the town.
So with us doing what we did, and we voted on it, and I would have thought it was all legal. But we didn't follow some protocol, or it was.
I think it was previous
Okay.
to us that didn't follow something. There's been different position changes within the town administration over the years. And I think that they're just trying to make sure everybody's on the same page and all of the bylaws throughout the town are being followed.
Oh, all right, not just.
I don't think that it's going to be a problem. And even if they say that we're only allowed to have 5 sitting members, there's other ways that we can go as far as adding new people, whether it's adjunct members or assistant members. There's different wordings where we can still bring people onto the board. They just won't be in that official capacity of voting. Hopefully that won't be an issue.
Jerry, you've been on the board for years. Were you there when Dick Joy was? Were you part of?
Yep.
How
No,
many was?
you know how I got on the board? There
Yeah.
was a newspaper article saying, anybody want to join? I called up. They said, come Tuesday, and they went, congratulations,
Yeah,
you are now a member.
That's great.
That was it.
I'm sure though eventually it made its way to the selectmen to get it approved.
I think annually. I think on the
Yeah.
annual count. When they, it didn't. Why is my connection unstable?
So with Evelyn, I think
And then,
she.
like I called you, we just called people, invited them to the meeting,
Yeah.
they became members. And then eventually they were approved.
All right. How long have you been on the board?
Forever. I can't remember. The exact date, but it's been a long time.
I bet it has been. I bet it goes back to probably when you moved over to the center, 97, from the town hall.
Well, I think I was on the Friends Council back in the town hall at one point.
Okay.
Evelyn, I can see, I'm looking at an article. I see your name here on a Council on Aging piece in the paper, and this is 1979.
Okay.
Was that when they were
Oh my
looking
God.
to have? Were they looking to have a new site then?
That was part of it. This particular article is about transportation.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good.
There's an interesting piece here on amending the bylaws.
Yeah.
This is 19, I think this is also 79. I'll have to look a little more closely here. It's not dated, but there are
Does
other
somebody
things on the
need
page.
to take the lead in this? I mean, to be a haunt to get it resolved? I mean, if we can't bring any members on, or do we can't go about the old way and it's.
I agree with Chaz. I don't think that it will be a terribly big issue. It's just that, and I do believe that it predates this board, this constellation of board
Yeah.
members.
Okay.
But I don't think it will be a big deal.
Well, do you
Really
feel
don't.
you people have it in control between you and Chaz, and we are
Yes.
going to move forward?
Yes.
Good news. Thank you. All right. Excuse me, Chaz. You can go on.
Um, And Maggie, did you have anything else for the reopening?
For the reopening, I did hear back from the emergency management team that I requested some of those disinfecting foggers, one for the van and one for the center itself. And that is going to be procured through the town. So I
Wow.
do not have to go out and do that.
I wonder if
So
Town Hall must have.
that will be helpful. I was prepared to take it out of the COA budget, and then that, those expenditures would be highlighted as having been made specific to the pandemic, and that goes into it gets earmarked with the accountant as, this expenditure would be unnecessary if it weren't for this pandemic,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Okay. That's
Same
great.
thing with, I'm going to include thermometers, the no-touch thermometers, one for the van, and again, one for the center. Those are not, I'm sure, nearly as expensive as the foggers. What else here? This doesn't have anything to do with reopening, I suppose. Well, it's adjacent to the reopening. The DPW and the building supervisor for Newbury Elementary School are going to meet here tomorrow to discuss, just make a plan and go ahead and purchase a locking mailbox for the outside of the senior center, a separate mailbox from the little cubby that the senior center currently has in the elementary school mailboxes. Just can be a little challenging to get mail on any kind of schedule when the building is closed. So that will happen. So that should make things a little more, flow a little more easily with mail. After having these modifications, which are not terribly huge, to the van, I think grocery trips could start in September. 1 or 2 a week, perhaps. As I mentioned earlier, it's 4 people maximum at one time on the van. I think a short newsletter is in order for September before that happens. And there was something else I wanted to mention. I know what it was. The grant, the relief grant, the COVID-19 relief grant from Elder Services that's being processed through them. I heard back from them today that the reason we haven't received our check yet is because they don't have a W-9 from us, which I didn't know they needed. So I'll process that this afternoon. And then we should have the check this week or next week, which is to be used for outreach purposes for this senior center. So that will be helpful. Oh, I know, there is one more thing. The Massachusetts Office on Disability reached out last week to the COA to ask if we would like emergency kit backpacks. I think we're going to receive just shy of 40 of them, 40. The thinking on the emergency backpack kits has come out of hurricanes over the last couple of decades. So there must have been money available, so these kits are now available. So Janet and I were looking at a list of people, since we are only going to get a small amount. People who have mentioned it in the past with winter storms and nor'easters. People, some senior residents we know are really alone, who don't have any kind of really bona fide infrastructure or support system. Anyway, it's an interesting project from Mass Office on Disability. Which reminds me about the care package idea, which kind of falls into that category. We have now got masks. We have, I think, 150. I'll have to double check that. We have 100 green books. We might have closer to,
Oh, wow.
I don't think we have 100 magnets, but we can order more of the magnets. I have reached out to the Friends. They don't know when or by whom these magnets were printed, but we can have more printed, and I can ask the Friends if they will pick up that cost. Just a blue ink on a white background with the phone number and the address and Newbury Council on Aging. It's a kind of a nice refrigerator magnet. What's the other piece? Hand sanitizer. I haven't sourced a small, maybe a 4-ounce bottle. With Jerry, had you mentioned that you might have a source for that?
Those and for the individual wipes
Okay. I'm looking
instead
at my,
of
I've
the
got a little,
bottle, you know, the individual.
the small, I'm looking at one that I have here. I have a 1/2-ounce bottle. It's quite tiny. But it's got a little keychain clip on it, which actually might be useful for folks. And we can explore, purchasing that, or Jerry, you and I can chat about that.
Yeah, right. And I'll give you a price on the wipes also.
Okay. Wonderful. I think that's all I have at the moment. Questions?
So as far as the van is concerned, we didn't do anything about that before because we had to wait for the opening date. Is that correct?
We didn't have to wait for the opening date. We did have, we won't be doing anything with it. The van, we had the inspection sticker done, and the van needs 2 front tires, which have not come in yet. They've been ordered. It needs 2 front tires and an alignment, a front alignment. So until that's done, I think we should, wait on doing grocery trips. It should be sometime soon. I think they've been ordered for the last week and a half or so, but they're not. Apparently, they're an unusual tire, which I can imagine. Unusual size. So I'll let you know when that's done, because they'll call and let us know.
Okay. So moving on to our next item, report from the expansion committee. Joyce, Evelyn, or Sandy? Would either of you like to speak on that?
I was excited to see the a report that Maggie sent over that was done in 2006, and it could have been our report. It was we did it for free. I don't know what they paid for it back then, but it's almost identical, just worded different than ours. So that was. That felt good, that the 3 of us had put together a report, just the 3 of us, that kind of equaled that one.
Mm-hmm. I thought I had the same
how
thought.
did the rest of you think? Did the rest of you think that was true? Did you have a chance to read it?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
I was just wondering what you guys felt after reading the 2006 and reading ours. Did you see the comparisons?
I did, Evelyn. I was really thrilled to see that as far back as 2006, there was a need. And I think this is good for us to even let the selectmen read. I don't know if they have a copy of this yet, but I would certainly like to get it in their hands. I don't know why the word draft is on there and a final letter wasn't presented, but maybe we can find that in the archives. Maybe there's some discussion about what was happening when this was going on. And like Evelyn was part of that committee back then, and she was said it was just going ring around the rosy, and nobody pushed hard enough, or I don't know what the conclusion was.
Well, I'll tell you, I was reassured looking at it that a lot of our report is similar, so I guess we're really not off base with what our findings were. That made me feel good to know that at least we're in the right zone.
Right, and I like the way like we split it up for 3 different needs and then put it all together. That worked well. And I'm anxious for tomorrow night to see what the selectmen have to say about it. We're on the agenda, and the 3 of us will be there to answer any questions. And looking forward to every one of them has been very encouraging when they talk to me about it. They know it's definitely needed. That isn't the question. The question is how and where. And that's what I want to see, is if they've come up with thoughts, so there's any interest, so we'll see.
There's, I'm sorry, I'm looking as you're speaking, Joyce, about, I knew that there was a piece in here, an article in the newspaper when one of the residents donated land.
Yes,
For
Cunningham.
the senior center.
Yes.
There's a nice piece on that. There's that was 2004.
Yeah.
There's a photograph of heavy equipment that was donated with labor to begin excavation in 2005.
It just didn't seem to be any support for it.
Right.
Yes.
I'll put some, and then, yeah,
The heavy
2005.
equipment was for perk tests.
What was it about the perk test?
And that's why the heavy equipment was there. I believe they were doing perk tests.
I see. Interesting. Okay, there you go. And then there's a headline in the Town Common: Newbury Senior Center shows progress, November 2nd, 2005. You'll enjoy going through the archives here.
Yes.
As I said, it's quite complete.
Yes. This cannot drop what we're doing. We have to and pursue it.
And I will say that the feedback around the discussion that's being stirred from the submission of the report to the Board of Select has been very favorable. There are a number of folks who are thinking about space and where it should be located and how it can happen. So thank you guys very much for submitting that. And again, it's very much in line with what they said back in 2006.
Right.
Hopefully we can continue the progress this time.
Right. Exactly. Well, I think we're done talking about our report.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions about it, but it's pretty self-explanatory.
All right, I will follow up on the having new board members process just to find out where the board's bylaws sit and what's necessary to
I
get
know.
everything processed and accepted so that we can so that the board can accept new members as soon as possible.
That would be a big help, right? Right.
All right, so just a couple more things. I just wanted to give everybody an update as far as the open positions for the Council on Aging staff. As everybody knows, Gail's position, her last day was last Thursday. She thanked the board and the Friends board for their gifts. She was anxious to use them. And she also said thank you very much for all of the support that we've provided her over the years. It was decision made not to fill Gail's position at this time until a new director is identified, just so that they can be part of the hiring process for the staff that they're going to be supervising. Also, Maggie's tentative date was for September 3rd for her last day. Maggie has stated that she's willing to continue until a suitable candidate could be identified. So thank you, Maggie.
Thank you, Maggie.
I am going to also be meeting with Janet on Wednesday afternoon just to reassure her, let her know that we're also there for her support, and let her know that she's not going to be the only staff member, that she will continue to have the support regardless of what happens. And so far that there has been one candidate who has applied, who does have some experience in the elder care network. So hopefully we will get some more candidates in and we'll begin the interview process.
Wonderful.
And now, Chaz, I haven't seen the ad. When you, did you put in the ad what the qualifications were? And is there also a deadline on getting requests in? And if there is a deadline and we don't have a good response, can we legally extend it?
Good questions. So Tracy submitted the posting through the town's website. She also submitted it through the Massachusetts Municipal Association and also on the Mass Council on Aging. It's not a real in-depth discussion about what the position requirements are, but it does give a general sense, similar to what many of the other towns have used. And as far as a deadline, it's an open position until it's filled.
Oh, good.
And how about salary? Is that based on experience? And is there degrees that are required?
The salary, I believe it's listed as, let me just confirm, it's not, the actual salary amount is not listed, but the pay level is for the town. Let me just tell you what that is. 1 second. I'm sorry, it actually does not have the pay level, but it does have all applicants should possess at least an associate's degree as minimum.
Is that kind of low, the associate's degree?
It depends on what their experience is.
Experience.
taking into consideration their educational background plus their work experience. So if we have somebody with an associate's degree, but it has had 15, 20 years in the elder care network, that equates to someone similar of a bachelor's degree.
Right. Jerry, what were you going to say? I didn't hear you.
No, I think it relies on a lot on experience as opposed to education.
Yeah. Okay, great. Very good,
Yes,
thank you.
And as we go through the interview process, that's definitely something that Tracy and I are looking at.
All right, great.
Now, I have a question, Chaz. I just went through this recently, hiring over to the housing. If we say our applications come in and they're nowhere near whatever figure you have in mind or whatever figure the town has in mind, do we have the ability to approach the town for pay increase if it doesn't happen that way?
I can't answer that directly, but I believe that we will have that conversation as we go through it.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sometimes, and I'm not familiar with government working, but in private companies, oftentimes you have a trial period. So as, you come in and you start and you have, I don't know, 6 months, 3 months, and you're approved and you stay on. Is there any such thing with this particular job, or making sure that it's a good fit for us?
I do believe that there is a probationary period. I don't know what the exact date range is, but I'm happy to check on that with Tracy. But for most town positions, there is a probationary period.
Oh, okay, good.
Sometimes it's either 90 days, sometimes it's 6 months. And at that point, that employee will have an evaluation to say that they're staying or it's just not working out.
Oh, that's good. I think that's critical.
Most definitely. And as we start conducting the interviews, I will begin to review the qualifications with everyone. If we need to do that via executive session, that's one of the 10 reasons we're allowed to have an executive session, we will do that. I will not be reviewing the candidate's name, but I will go over what their experience is, what the impressions that has come out of the interviews as well, just to keep everybody informed and just to make sure that we're selecting the best candidate.
Perfect.
I have
Sharon?
a question.
Yes.
Chaz, who's going to be doing the interviews? Is Maggie going to be part of it?
Maggie will not be part of the interviews. Tracy and I will be conducting them.
Okay.
I will welcome them with open arms.
And it's definitely something too that we are making sure that we have input from Maggie. She's already given me some suggestions on what she thinks this new person needs to have, what skill set. And whenever I talk to Janet on Wednesday, I'm also going to ask her for her input as well.
Can we send you some of our comments also?
Oh, most definitely. And those of you who have sent your questions for the interviews, I am still working on incorporating them with the other questions that I've received. And I want to, as soon as I get that completed, I will get it out to everybody as well.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Anybody have anything else on that topic? Okay, so I only have one last thing to make a suggestion on. And as we're going through both looking at new space, looking at what services and what type of programming we need to start providing to our community, a number of the senior centers who are all in very similar positions as us, who have had staffing change, they're starting to explore and develop a procedure for developing a needs assessment. This should be done by an outside entity. However, it can also be done through interns, or we can also possibly wait and have the new director take charge on this. So I just wanted to put it out there to see what other people's thoughts are. With having an independent organization do the assessment might be more beneficial, so that nobody can say that the report is being biased. And it's not only going to be looking at what our consumers in our community want, but what's also feasible, and not only looking at it from a programmatic standpoint, is looking at, do we want to have more of a focus on outreach? Do we want it to be more social? Do we want it to be more just general engagement? Or is it going to be more of a educational type of programming going forward? It will also, I believe, having that independent review as we go through with the looking for new space, it'll be another additional resource for us to propose to the town and to the Board of Select to say, this is why we need this new space, whatever that looks like. Does anybody have any comments about that?
I was just wondering about the I was trying to take notes about the word you used, biased. Why would people who live and work in the community that are on the committee be biased? I don't understand that word.
Because we're actually part of the committee and part of the Council on Aging, typically the independent review will do a needs assessment through a survey. They'll be reaching out directly to the consumers. And they'll also be getting other information from other stakeholders involved.
And the other question I have, you also, I can't read my own writing here, but you also mentioned various areas, like would we be focusing on education, would be focusing on, I can't remember the other things you said, but I would think it would be all of the above, because the elderly all have individual needs, and we should be addressing the needs of the elderly.
Exactly, and it's not, it'll actually be looking at what the consumers in the community have interest in. So yes, it could be education, it could be social, it could be all of them. But it would be a way of having direct information from the actual community.
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Why don't we wait until after we see what the selectmen feel about what you submitted and go from there? Because they may feel like that's a fairly complete piece of information.
Okay.
I was going to think the same thing. I'd like to get feedback from the selectmen and work with them for a little bit. And if we can, so I'd like to table this for now. And then if we feel it's needed, we could bring it up at another meeting and take care of it then.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
All right. That sounds good to me.
Evelyn, you're good at making motions, so it's not even on the floor.
Yeah, it's not even up for a motion right now, so
So
I'm happy to wait and see what happens with the select board.
And I think a lot of it has depending on how much space are we gonna have, because there's certain things that we don't know. Are they gonna build this brand new town hall? I mean, not town hall, COA, and how many square feet, and all that. So it'd be better to get some idea of what they're thinking about or what they can do for the seniors of Newbury.
Okay.
I think realistically, we're looking at it as a tag along for some other facility that's going to be built.
That's what we'll have to wait and see. Yep.
Right.
And it's just like before, we had a small spot in the town hall, and then they went over to the school and they thought that was wonderful. But it didn't take long. They had been there since 1997, and in 2006, they're looking for more space because they know that wasn't sufficient. So we'll have to see. If you follow my thoughts, here we are now trying to leave school.
We're slowly moving along at a snail's pace.
We are.
But maybe those people that were looking at the report in 2005 are now old enough to appreciate it.
Time will
Touche.
tell.
Well, I think that the problem, which has been expressed before, is it's a chicken or egg, which came first. They may express that there aren't that many people that would need it. It's because we don't have we can't have that many presentations. We want to do all these things, but we don't have the space, and it's really tying our hands. I think if we have the programs.
Sandra, I think an answer to that is if we get that far, we can talk to Roseanne, because that was what they kept saying in Newburyport, because her small space was in the Salvation Army. And now they have this brand new facility, and I'm sure she can give us statistics on what the impact that made.
Yep. So if anybody says that, I'm just going to say, it's because we don't have the space that we don't have the attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and plus our space is not that we can help it any, and not so appreciative to the schools and to the town of Newbury. It is bigger, but it's just not friendly. Ringing a doorbell to get in, and then you have, and no parking. There's 8 spaces, and which the van takes one, and it's a long walk to the door, and you can't.
Restrooms.
And right now, the restrooms, and right now the schools are closed, so that's not the problem, but it certainly was when they were open. Where are we going to park? So, I think.
I have to leave. I have a doctor's appointment. Okay.
Okay.
I have to go, guys.
I think
Thanks,
we're done.
Jerry.
Bye.
All right, I think we are done for today. So I make the motion that we end the meeting at 2:00. And our next meeting will be on September 21st at 1 p.m.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Everyone.
All
Nice
right,
to hear
thanks.
everyone and see you.
Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.